Okay, so hi everyone. As Russell has said, I'm Verena Ras. I am affiliated to H3ABioNet, and I have presented some of our work at ISMB before, but unfortunately it was during COVID, so this is my first in-person ISMB, so I'm very excited to be here to tell you a little bit more about how we've made our training more fair and impactful. I am aware that probably many people don't know what H3ABioNet is or who we are as an organization. So without taking up too much time, I'm just going to do a quick overview of H3ABioNet. So H3ABioNet is a Pan-African bioinformatics network established under the Human Hereditary and Health in Africa Consortium. Originally, we had 28 partner nodes that were spread across 17 countries, well over 200 members. We also had one US partner. But H3ABioNet was primarily established to develop bioinformatics capacity in Africa, but also to enable genomics data analysis by these H3 Africa researchers. And so, of course, a significant component of that was training. And so we really put a lot of effort into our training, into developing our training and our training models. So over the years, H3ABioNet has delivered a range of different training types, training courses using different models. So we run face-to-face training, online training, we do hackathons and jamborees, we do internships, and a lot of train-the-trainer programs as well. So we've developed a fairly sustainable sort of training environment. But by far, our most impactful training model has been our live online training. But when I talk about live online training, I don't mean training online on Zoom. I mean our distributed classrooms model. So some of you, again, might be very familiar with this because I've spoken about it so often. But we developed a model called the multiple delivery mode training model, which combines elements of face-to-face learning, distance learning, and online learning all in one course. And so we are able to have distributed classrooms that join this model. So at the moment, we reach up to 50 classrooms with one course, training 2,000 people in parallel. Each of these classrooms are at a physical site, and so they have teaching support, both a TA and a systems administrator. And because of that, it's quite scalable. We manage it all from a central node, so it's quite a lot of work. But it's been by far one of the most impactful models, I think, that we've rolled out as a community. The original model focused a lot on online tools for obvious reasons, but with us training more and more people, we realized we really needed to be able to implement this with more advanced training and more advanced resources. And so we adapted this model and actually in the past couple of years have been getting classrooms to actually pull containers. So we've containerized resources, tools that they need to pull, implement, manage, give user access to their sets of participants that join them, and then actually run analyses in a real HPC style environment. Again, it came with a lot of challenges, but what we really like about this is that it's very scalable. And so at the moment with this model, we reach up to 40 classrooms a year and about 800 to 1,000 people per training. So we've published a lot of this. We've published both of those models in PLOS Computational Biology, and we've also kind of given a narrative of the whole sort of ecosystem that we've developed with another paper that we published in Frontiers. So if you want a bit more information, they are linked on the slides, and I'm also happy to point you to these papers. But again, we had a wealth of sort of resources within the organization, lots of experience with delivering training and developing training resources. And so we thought, it's time for us to disseminate this. This can't be sitting in silos. We want people to use our models, our methods, our processes. And so we started to embark on making a lot of our training more fair. One thing we did was start to design things like guides and SOPs that are all loaded, open source, online. They come with a range of different templates. So if you want to implement any kind of training on your own, we've got these guides that step you through with really complex workflows, depending on what you want to implement, with templates to support you, and that step you through the process really step by step and will really help you do what we do, essentially. Of course, we've been developing lots of resources, lots of really great training materials. All of our training materials are very sort of context specific. And so it's very sort of fit for use in Africa. And so again, we thought it makes sense for us to disseminate this. We don't have that many resources that are very contextual available to Africans. So we decided, well, we need to get those resources out there. And so we embarked on the process of implementing FAIR and bioschemas. And it was challenging, as Michelle said. It took me a whole 2 or 3 years to just curate all of our training materials. It was a retrospective exercise, so it was really hard. But we started by coming up with a bit of a process. And so it all kind of started there. It all started by just designing a really simple template that collected all of the relevant metadata, all of the relevant fields. And so the first thing for us to do was to go and backtrack through all these trainings that we've done and collect all this metadata, make sure it's there, go back to the regional authors, ask them, are you comfortable with us releasing this under a Creative Commons license? So there was lots of groundwork that needed to go into that. But I'm also happy to say that we finally got there. A lot of our pages are now standardized. We're currently working on it, so it might be funky if you look at it over the next couple of weeks. But we now have all our pages with standardized training metadata. We've got a training material availability statement that tells you if the materials are available, the license it's under, and where you can get it. Another thing that we do is we upload all of our materials into an open repository. It's our own instance of Figshare. And so we assign DOIs to all of these materials as well. And so if anybody else uses them, it's easy to cite the original creators. And of course, we want you to cite them. So we started to implement the bioschemas. Originally had very many errors that kicked out when we did validation. But we managed to design web forms on our back end that now collects all of our data very standardized. That allows us to easily port this into our JSON LD object. And so we've kind of started to automate this quite a bit. So that's quite exciting as well. So now anybody who's loading information onto our website has to fill in standardized forms, and then that automatically pulls in the schema. So this is just to show it's getting better. We still have an error or two, but we've started to clear some of those errors and we're starting to get good validation back. So we've managed to implement the course instance schema. We're in the process of implementing the training material schema, the course schema, the training material schema, and we're trying to implement the course instance schema, but that's proving a bit difficult for us. But we're working on it, so hopefully we'll get there soon. And then just to maybe say, we are also tracking impact. So we've got analytics set up across all of our sites. Obviously, Figshare tracks analytics as well. And it's very exciting for us to say that since we've implemented the schemas, our websites have had a lot of hits. What's really exciting, and I say this all the time, is that when you search for our courses and our training, it went from being on search result page 8 to search result page 1. It's now often the very first result that comes up. So that to me, again, is very exciting. And I don't know if that's just because of implementing the bioschemas. We do some other SEO as well. But it definitely made an impact. And you can see that this is an old course site that almost nobody visited at the time. But after I looked at it last week, we had over 6,000 hits to an old site. We're not running this right now, but people are finding it, and that means they're finding out our materials, and that's also fantastic. Again, we just started loading things on CVAB. Like I said, we just loaded this in 2022. You can see the date there. And we already have over 7,500 downloads. And that's just for one module from our Introduction to Bioinformatics training. That's the distributed model course, one of our courses. So again, people are finding our materials, they're accessing it, they're using it. And I even found out that there's a whole new organization that's now taken a lot of our materials and are training groups within their regions as well, using a lot of these materials and citing by H3ABioNet all the time. So that's also fantastic because, of course, it's exposure for our trainers, it's exposure for all of our content developers who put in a lot of work. They really do. So, I mean, this is really fantastic for us. So I decided to keep this talk short to catch us up on time. Many people to acknowledge, many classrooms across Africa, many staff. I want to say that this is all done with a volunteer effort, if you can believe that. So every single staff member that capacitates these different classrooms are volunteering their time. There's a coordinator, multiple TAs, a systems administrator that's there twice a week for 4 hours a day for 3 months, 3 to 4 months. The NGS course that we run is 4 months long, and they dedicate that time free. We don't pay them, and they come back every year. This has been going on for 8 years now, and they're still joining us, which in my opinion, just speaks to the quality and the impact that it has for their groups of participants. And then, yeah, just to thank everybody that's made this possible, and also to the ISCB for allowing me a travel fellowship to come here, because I'm also a PhD student alongside this, that I'm doing part-time, so I was eligible for funding. I just wanted to say that in case people thought it was weird that I got the fellowship.
So you've got time for some questions.
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. if that sells bioschema's implementation, I don't know what else will. That's great. That's really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's really improved the findability of our resources. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
How do you come to make these people so motivated to come and teach with you voluntarily every year? What do you do?
I mean, I think that it goes back to what Aya said right at the beginning, is that you want people who need the training and who are desperate for the training. And the entire African continent is desperate for training because it's so inaccessible to them. And I think that is why this has also been very impactful, is because these trainings are otherwise inaccessible, or it's accessible, but it's really expensive. And we offer everything free of charge. We don't charge anything for these trainings. So we're training 2,000 people per course free of charge. And I think that is why people keep coming back, because there's no money that they need to contribute, and the classrooms just need to find a room somewhere where people can get together and join if they have an on-site classroom. The one thing I can say is that during COVID, we really saw the impact of the face-to-face component, because we really saw a decrease in retention when we had to go fully online with this model, which we did do, and it became a very weird blended learning model. So we committed to still running it, but it didn't go as well. And that to me also speaks to the importance of every single component. And then just to say that everything is assessed. We've got an assignment that is delivered per session. We've got assessments that are delivered per module, usually about 6 modules or so. And so everything is basically tracked. And we do grading, we do full application selection processes. So it's really a really amazing model, and I want to toot the horn of the model. So if anybody else is interested in it, please come and speak to me so that we can give you resources, give you information.
Well, I have one question myself. I'm kind of wondering how much training do instructors need, either working with you or adapting these, to be able to use these containerized modules?
Yeah, so it does take a bit of training, but more than training, I think it takes passion and drive and willingness to do it. I think that it will take you probably 80% of the way, but just to say that we are designing actually a model, a course that will probably be running in November, where we're actually going to teach whoever joins the course how to implement the model. So we'll take them through every aspect of admin to like content development, planning, curriculum planning, content mapping, all of that. So we're going to do a full week-long workshop where we're going to invite people who are interested in running this model. So if anybody here might be interested in possibly joining that, you can also chat to me. We are a little bit oversubscribed already, but we could squeeze in, 1 or 2 people possibly.